Hey, it's the Business Renovator one more time for this week. I'm excited to be here. I say that every day when I'm on, but I'm really excited every day that I'm on. It's great that I have another day to be here and share some information. And today, 17, the little way to get a lot done. Really, when we come back, our guest will be on here, the author of that wonderful book, and you'll be able to hear his wonderful Northern English accent. Be right back. That's a shameless plug. I'm one of the Focal Point business coaches that you could ask a question of. And if I don't have the answer to your question, I have a network of business coaches with Focal Point around the globe. So we could answer the question, I'm pretty sure. On that note, if you're watching this on a replay, let us know where you're from. Go #replay. And if you're watching this live and you like what it's all about, subscribe to our YouTube channel and invite your community to come and listen to the Business Renovator. On that note, I'm going to bring on Michael Heppell.
Welcome, Michael. Great to be here, Phil.
Let me tell the people who you are first, though, because some people may not know who you are, and I'm surprised about that. But anyway, you're an author, a speaker, a coach, a trainer. You've worked with those that have the desire to set brilliance as their benchmark. I love that. Who want to make massive action and are ready to make change. Through events, training, writing, and coaching, Michael has worked with everyone from Category B prisoners, not sure what that is, but we'll find out, and business leaders from premiership footballers to TV personalities. So for those that don't know what premiership footballers are, that's real football. It's not soccer, it's football. So welcome, and thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Well, it is great to be here. You know what? The soccer players, they are the most challenging people of anybody to work with. Oh my goodness, I've stopped doing it now, actually, because the ego that goes along with most of these soccer players, it's quite something, Phil. But we're not here to talk about them today, are we?
No, not really. We're just here to find a way to get more stuff done. And
if you find out, let me know.
Okay. I did say you were an author. So here's what, 7 books that you've created. The most recent one is the one standing out on the end, which is what I put in there. 17, the little way to get a lot done. We'll talk a little bit about that today, because I did promise that the people, when I was promoting you, I said I will give you a little nudge to find out what we could do to get more done. So maybe you'll share 1 or 2 tips along the way, and we'll just have a conversation. We're both from the same country. My accent is, well, it's not the same as his. It never was, actually, because I was from more south than you. You're from a place where I have a brother-in-law whose parents were there. And the last time I was in England, between 9 and 10 years old, they'd come and talk. And when they came and talked, one of the things that they did was they shortened. I think they could have been one of the strategies in your book, is they compressed the English language. So in the South, now I didn't go to a pub when I was 9 or 10, but if I had, I would have said, hey, Michael, would you like to go down and have a pint and go to a pub? And you go, yeah. Up north, they go pint, pub. They just compress it to get there faster.
You know what? It's even developed further than that. It's now just pint. That's it. You just literally, seriously, my next door neighbor, Gavin, sometimes we'll be kind of doing that thing, just we chat over the wall, and he'll kind of be doing something in his garage, and he just suddenly go, pint? And you go, yep, that's it. That's all you need. The only conversation. If our wives are involved, and this is not just a sexist thing, this is just a factual thing. It has to be planned, got to work out. They got to go and get changed. They got to do all that type of stuff. If it's Gavin and I, we could be on our 3rd one by the time they turn up.
Isn't that interesting? I just had music come on in my house. It's nice music. I hope you can't hear it. Oh, perfect. I thought, who's pushing buttons? Anyway, I'm here. I'm home alone today.
Crazy. There's somebody playing music in your house.
Yeah, that's crazy. Who would have done that? So we're all kind of living through this change of life, this thing called the pandemic. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, not that I'm wishing it had happened, I absolutely wish it had not happened. However, if it wasn't for that experience, I would never have heard about you. I would never met you. I'd never gotten any of your nuggets, your wisdom, because, well, we have a common friend, Jeffrey Gitomer. He's a big fan of yours. As a matter of fact, you quote him in your book, in and around lists, because he's a big fan of lists, and we'll maybe talk about lists. And then there's many other things that have come out of the pandemic. And if I remember right, I'm going to hold this book up instead of bring up the image. This book was born out of the pandemic, was it not?
Yeah, that's right.
Can you tell us about that?
So basically, here's how it started. So 2019, I traveled a lot, and I was away from home, I think about 158 different places. We stayed 158 different nights away from home. It was a lot. And I said to my wife, she said, look, we've got to travel less. We want to spend more time at home. I was like, yeah, sure. And I said, sweetie, I promise you in 2020, we are going to spend a lot more time at home. And sure enough, we spent a lot more time at home. And what basically happened was we got very excited about the opportunity to say, right, okay, we're going to be at home. We have to do something. We can't go out and speak on stages. I would normally be on stages all over the place. So let's embrace this. Let's do something about it. Let's do something in a different way. So I already had an online community called How to Be Brilliant, which is still there now in Facebook. And I remember one day just thinking, okay, what else can I do? How else can I help people? So I did a little survey, and the survey was, if I could teach you something, what would it be? What would you want to learn? And I put 3 things in there, and one of them was about time management. One of them was about customer service, and one of them was about advanced brilliance. And then just at the last minute, I thought, oh, add one more: how to write a book. And 70-something% of people who came back said, I'd love to know how to write a book. So I thought, well, great. So I created a pop-up group, and it was Write That Book pop-up group, did a challenge for a few days. It was great fun. It was excellent. And halfway through the challenge, people were saying, well, what happens next? Do you fancy running a masterclass? And I was like, okay, I'll do a masterclass. Thought it would just be a one-off. That was the plan, Phil. I didn't think I would go on and do more with this. But I set up this group. I think there was 76 people joined the first masterclass, and we did a live training session on the first night. You know how these things go, and everyone was all excited, and they were all talking about the books they're going to write, and it was really, really amazing buzz and amazing energy. And I left that call, and I walked into our kitchen, just at the other end of the house there, and my wife said, "Are you okay?" I was like, yeah, I'm brilliant. She was like, "No, you're not. What is it? Come on, I know you. What is it?" I said, well, I'll tell you what it is. All of these people are writing books, and I'm not writing a book. And I haven't written a book for about 6-7 years. So I need to write a book. And she was like, well, get on and do it. What are you waiting for? I was like, yeah, but I need a hook. I need something. And I use this technique, something called 17-minute sprints, which I've been teaching people for years. And I use it myself. And I'll tell you about that in a second, how it came about. And 17 popped into my mind. It's a good number, 17. You can do a lot of things with 17. 17 works in lots of different ways. If you write a list, most people write a list of 10 things. If you write 17, it makes you think that little bit more. There's kind of the Pareto's law, the 80-20 rule, where it's not actually, it's 83-17 is the real statistic, according to me. So I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a book called 17. And I'm going to do it in 17 days to prove to people that I can write a book in 17 days, and you could write a book in 17 days. So I announced it to this group. I'm going to write a book called 17. I'm going to do it in 17 days. And sure enough, I did. So that was how the book came about. And then I thought, right, how am I going to make it a little bit special? So I thought, well, I'll only print 1,000 copies. And the other thing was, I thought, I'm not going to go to my publisher. So my publisher was like, oh, we'll publish it. But it takes so long with a publisher.
Yeah.
I thought, you know what? It's just, I want something out, and I want people to have this book in their hands in the next, couple of months, not in the next 2 years. So I decided I would do it. And this is the big mistake I made, Phil. As I said, we're only going to print 1,000 copies. They'll all be signed and numbered. Well, 2 mistakes, actually. One, only saying 1,000, because I could have sold 5,000. But the other thing was saying I would sign and number them all, because that took forever. Yeah. I mean, it was like, just signing's really quick. Doing numbers, you have to really think about it. And then from there, what happened was loads of people were interested in the book. They were kind of going, oh, this is really cool. I like the look of this, Michael. Why don't you start a Facebook group around 17? So I initially just started a little pop-up again, did that for a few weeks. People loved it and thought, right, let's start a private membership group called Team 17. And it's Team 17's first birthday today.
Happy birthday!
Hey, we started on the 17th of September, 2020, and here we are now 1 year on, and we're having a birthday party tonight. And then on Monday, we reopen membership, because membership's been closed for 6 months, but it's going to reopen on Monday. So that's pretty exciting.
That's very cool. And I'm ecstatic that I get to actually share in a special historic moment of 17 on September 17th with the author of 17 and the creator of Team more 17s. I like how it's a pattern interrupt, right? It's like, and you said 10 minutes is like, are we really committed to it? Okay, 10 minutes. 15 minutes has kind of got the same thing. 17-minute disrupts it. In reading the book, where one of the impetuses for this concept came for you, I believe you were in the Random House publisher's office wanting to talk to the CEO. And what did you say? The executive, he has an executive assistant who also had an assistant. When they wheeled you in,
basically, I'll tell you what happened. It was the day of the O.J. Simpson verdict in 1995. I was in New York. I was used to be a fundraiser for a charity, and I went to see this guy, Harold Evans. And Harold Evans is just, phenomenal individual. Unfortunately, he died last year. Mm-hmm. Just after 17 was published. He never got to see the copy. Oh, no. His wife is Tina Brown, who was editor of the New Yorker. And but anyway, I go to see him, and walking through New York on that day, I've never seen anything like it. There's film crews out, the people are getting a bit of new Times Square stopped, and everybody got out their cars to look up at the big screen to see this verdict. Right. And then I arrived at his office, and I'm sat there in the waiting area, and I'm all, kind of getting a bit nervous about going to see this guy and all this stuff. And then soon this little light flashed on his PA's, his assistant's desk. And she said, okay, you can go in now. And I said, thanks so much. And as I walked past, she went, you've got 17 minutes. Now, that has never happened to me before and has never happened since. But you know what? Immediately, my brain went, wow. He is a person who values their time in a different way than I've ever seen before. And I went into his office, and he was on the phone at this big desk. There was a sofa over in the corner. He's looking down Fifth Avenue. It was quite a setting. And he pointed at the sofa, and he went, take a seat. And then he's talking on the phone, and he basically, I could hear his side of the conversation, and it went like this. Look, you're busy, I'm busy, we're all busy. This is a really simple question. Have we got a deal? This is a yes or a no. Yes, good news, great. Okay, we'll get something sorted out this afternoon. Thanks very much. Bye. Put the phone down. And then he turned to me and he went, hi, Michael, great to meet you. And I'd practiced my opening line, because I always like to practice an opening line of a conversation, especially an important one like that. And my opening line was, we're about to have the only conversation in New York that's not about the O.J. Simpson verdict. So I said that, and he went, do you know who that was? And he pointed over at the phone. It's like, no, he goes, that was Marsha Clark, the prosecutor, doing the book deal 30 minutes after the verdict. Only in America, Michael. Only in America.
Wow. I had to come
out. I was like, shit. I'm with a legend here. And we sat down, and the bit that's not in 17, which is what happened next, was, I'm a fundraiser, so I was there for some very specific things. And I said, look, we need to do, I'll tell you about the community foundation. We need to do this. Because I've read all the stuff. What do you need me to do? I went, okay, well, first of all, we'd love it if you would consider being a vice president. Being a vice president means, he goes, yeah, I'll do it. What else? Wow. I was like, all right, great. Well, the other thing we need is money. Would you like to make a donation? He said, well, how much do you need? I said, well, if you do 5,000 a year for 5 years and do £25,000, you can have a named fund. And he went, yeah, I'll do that. What else do you need? And I was thinking, I've got my 2 things I went in for, and I've still got 15 and a half minutes.
You know what?
Thinking, how am I going to get this 15 and a half minutes? Well, what I took him a gift, and in his book, I'd read his book before I went to do my research. He loves a city called Durham. So, it's a very old city in the north of England. Beautiful cathedral, well over 1,000 years old, remarkable place. And he has this real admiration for Durham. Well, one of the people who was on my board at the Community Foundation was the Bishop of Durham. And I said to him, I wonder if you could do me a favor. Could you please, they're doing renovations at the moment, could you see if you could get me a piece of stone from the cathedral? And he went, you can't just pinch stone from the cathedral. And I said, well, just ask them. He went, no, I can't ask, because every piece has to be accounted for. And if it can be reused, it has to. I was like, all right, okay. Just I'm going to America and I'm going to meet these big donors. And the 2 people I'm going to meet have got this real connection with Durham. And I've got this idea to take them a piece of Durham Cathedral. And he went, oh, I can't do it. Anyway, a week later, the Bishop of Durham arrived at my office, and he put down on my desk a piece of stone about that big by that big. Just like that, boom. And I was like, oh my goodness, how did you do it? And he went, I promise you, this is a piece of the cathedral, but you will never tell anybody how you got it. And I was like, okay, I promise. And I've broken that promise a few times, like including telling you. But what he did was, he said, a cassock that they wear,
Yeah.
pockets just go straight in. And he said, I just saw this little piece of stone. He said, I think they were going to put it into a skip. And he said, I just stood over.
Oh, no.
Walked over to my office. And sure enough, so we sliced the stone. We got 4 pieces out of it, about the size of a credit card. And we mounted it on a picture with an illustration of the cathedral. And I had one of those for Harold Evans. And I gave him the gift. And I remember he undid the package. He was like, what? Oh, my goodness. Is this really Durham Cathedral? I was like, yeah, 100%. It's Durham Cathedral. He went, oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. And he walked over to his wall and he pulled an award, this big award that was on. He pulled that off and he hung up this piece of Durham Cathedral, and he turned around to his PA and said, come in. That's Durham Cathedral. That's what I've told you about before. And that's an actual piece. Michael's brought me a piece of the cathedral. Sit down. Anyway, do you want coffee? I was like, yeah, I'd love a cup of coffee. So then I caught him a coffee, and then he started talking about what else he can do. And then he said, I'll do a dinner. I'll do a dinner in New York. I'll invite a load of people who've got links with the UK. We'll do a big fundraiser here for you. It was just, everything changed at that moment. But at 17 minutes into the meeting, a light flashed on his desk, and that was my time up. And that's where the whole 17 started.
It's brilliant. So can I recap what I heard?
Yeah, sure.
So for people who didn't hear what I heard, and maybe they heard it better, you have to have intention, set a goal, decide. You're like the pebble in the pond, and because of the things that you acted upon, the ripples went out and you saw further, and it gave you creative insight to do some other things. And because you like to serve and help people, that's my experience of you across the ocean, and being privileged to hear you on a few occasions, came all the way down to the 17 minutes. And it reminds me of one of the principles of an older guy than both of you and I. It was Napoleon Hill's book when he did his research. And what you described about your buddy in New York was this principle. Hill talked about high achievers make quick decisions and change their mind slowly, and low achievers do the opposite. They waffle and take forever to make a decision and change their mind frequently and often. So that's what I got out of hearing what you shared today.
Oh my goodness, that is so true. You know, one of the books that I wrote, the one that before 17, is called The Edge. And to do that, I interviewed 200 super successful people who were, you know, really at the highest possible place. And I remember one day I interviewed a guy called General Sir Mike Jackson, who was head of the British Army. And he told me about having to make a decision. And it wasn't whether somebody lived or died. It was how many people lived or died. Imagine having to make that decision. Yeah. I mean, that's it. Your army is in a situation and people are going to die. It's just how many. That's what he had to work out. And I was like, oh my goodness, how did you actually make it? And he said, I knew what I had to do. He said, it probably took me about 15 minutes to really go through everything and make that decision. But, time was against. I went, 15 minutes. 15 minutes. How on earth did you make a decision like that in 15 minutes? And he said, I've been preparing for it for 50 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, that's it. When you prepare, you can make decisions. If you haven't done the reading, if you haven't done the learning, if you haven't been open to other people's suggestions, if you haven't done what we're doing now and just shooting the breeze and talking to interesting people, it's very difficult for you to make an informed decision. And that's when people collapse and they don't.
Yeah, I just did a training yesterday to a group of salespeople for the largest company in their field and across Canada. And one of the things I brought up was luck. Luck is when preparation. How does it go? Luck is when preparation. No, yeah, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, or preparation. Yeah. That quote. I'm screwing up right now. And that's what he's talking about, right? He did all of that preparation. Or there's another story where there's some manufacturing plant. I guess it's in the U.S. and there was a problem with it. They brought in the expert. He looked at it, marked an X on it, and charged him X amount of dollars, $10,000. And they wanted to know why it was such an expensive invoice. So we broke it down. It was like $1 for knowing where to put the X, and the balance was for knowing all about that.
We've heard so many versions of that story, haven't we? The FedEx guy who just tweaked one screw and all that type of stuff. Doesn't matter what the story is. The point is the knowing what to do. Yeah,
you've earned the right? Because you put in the effort and whatnot. Anyway,
it's hard though, Phil. It's one of those things. It's like one of these things where people go, all you have to do, but it's never all you have to do.
No.
I talk about things, things are simple but not easy. If it was easy, then everyone would do it. So
exactly.
It's like, I know that I should be reading more. I know that I should be investing in a coach. I know that I should be, taking these steps, but actually to commit to do it, that's where there's only a handful of people who will ever do that.
Yeah, that's probably 1% or maybe 3%. I did show that you are author of 6 other books. And one of the other books that I've had the opportunity to read, I haven't read the whole thing yet. It coincides with a philosophy I have that I was taught, and it's Flip It. And I'm going to get you to talk about that here in a minute. Where it coincides with me is with 35 millimeter film. What's that got to do with Flip It? Well, it's actually very similar, because in order to have a beautiful, magnificent photo with 35 millimeter process, you need a really good negative. So what I got people to do is to make a list of all the things they're crap at, or they're fearful of, or they're anxious of, and get all those emotions and ideas on paper and divide it in half. On the left is the negative side. Now, if you did a polar opposite of that, 180, which is your Flip It, what would it look like? How would you feel? What would you do? What would you be doing differently? Can you talk about that for Flip It?
Yeah, I mean, Flip It. There's a friend of mine called Tim Brownson, who is a phenomenal. He coaches life coaches. That's his job. And every time we talk about Flip It, he curses me first of all, and then he says it's the book that I wish that I'd written. Right. And I was like, really goes, yeah. He says, because you've just taken reframing, and you've just put it into such a simple way. And for me, Flip It was always that thing where I used to say, I found myself saying this all the time, come on, Mike, you need to flip it. You need to flip it. If I was coaching someone, I would say, come on, you just got to flip it. What's the other way of doing it? Rather than being fearful of something, what would be the confident version? Exactly what you're saying there.
Yeah.
And on the front cover, we have this, that classic logo that you see on when they do the TV weather. When I see that, my brain immediately goes, oh, wow, we're going to get some sunshine. When my mum sees that, she looks at that and goes, oh, it's going to be cloudy. That is Flip It thinking. That is absolutely Flip It thinking. And, when I wrote this book, I was really pleased with it, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of, funny stuff in there as well. And then a very interesting thing happened. A guy called Chris Evans, not the actor, a radio DJ in the UK, he had a show with 8 million listeners. And he got in touch by his producer and said, I'd like you to come on the show and talk about Flip It. I was like, oh, yeah, great. I'd be happy to do that. And the opening of the show that day, to 8 million people was, "Hi, welcome to the Chris Evans Show. Today brought to you by my Christmas book recommendation. It's called Flip It. It's by a guy called Michael Heppell. I'm going to have him on the show later. I want everybody to buy 10 copies." I was sat at home waiting for this to do this radio interview going, and sure enough, 2 weeks later, Sunday Times #1 best-selling book, which was a nice feeling, I have to say, especially around Christmas time, which is when it happened. So Flip It is great. And recently, interestingly, over the last 18 months with all the stuff with the pandemic, it's had a massive resurgence. My publisher was in touch and they said, we've done another run of several thousand copies because so many people are now looking for Flip It. So they took it off from where it was, and they've kind of repackaged it, and it's back out there again.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But that's who you are, though. My experience in the little bit of time I've got to know you and experience you is you are that guy. You are looking at how do you turn lemons into lemonade or something even better, right? And you've done that with the people that are in your communities. Kellen, I'm not going to bring her up, but she's here, and she says, "Hey, Michael." She's a huge fan of yours, and you've been instrumental in helping her get to where she's in her own business and writing books and moving from California to Georgia. And
she's remarkable.
Amazing. Amazing.
She really is a remarkable person, and she's so full of fun and so full of love. And one of the things that we do in Team 17 is we interview people, and we do a thing called 17 minutes with. And when I first started to do the 17 minutes with, I just did all my celebrity friends, so anybody who had a name, I was like, "Will you do 70? Come on, do it for me." And they were like, yeah, we all did it. And they were great. And then I thought, right, I'm going to start and do some of the new people who I'm just getting to know. I did a 70 minutes with Kellen. Man, it was superb. It is so full of fun. It's so full of energy. It's so full of life. We cover so many different topics. I was like, man, why am I running around trying to find, A-list celebrities when the most interesting people are right here in my group already? And after that one, we probably over half of the interviews that we do now are just with other members of the Team 17 group. It's great.
That's brilliant. I'm using your phrase. That's brilliant.
Why? Yeah, help yourself.
I should be using mine, which I shared with you earlier. Let me see if I can produce this properly this time. Here we go. This is what I use in the same way that you use brilliant. It's wonderful. It came from a mentor. And the reason, and guess who created that for me? Not the word, but the graphic. Kellen. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I have these cards.
You got the 3D version. Yeah, I've got them too. It's so good. Look at this one.
Oh, you're going to outdo me.
Whoa.
Okay, that rocks. That's fun.
Yeah. These are brilliant.
Wow, we're almost at the 30-minute mark, and there's so much more we could talk about. Oh, there's another comment. Look at that.
Hey.
Connie's a coach. Her specialty is helping people with call reluctance. It's one of the things she does. That's how I knew her. I invested some money and time with her a bunch of years ago, and she's looking at doing something similar to her own live LinkedIn sort of things. And look at that. She just bought a copy of Flip It.
Well, do you know what, Connie? The narrator is me. So if you like my voice and you like my enthusiasm, then you'll really enjoy Flip It.
Yeah, it's actually really good.
Read, written by a simple bloke, so it's an easy read.
Yeah, but a very wonderful bloke at that.
Yeah, thank you.
Just to be respectful of your time, because I know you're crazy busy with all what you're doing, and to keep this in that magic 30-ish minute, is there one thing out of, well, it doesn't have to be out of 17, out of anything that you would want to leave with your audience, whoever's listening to us now or on the replay?
Well, do you know, the thing is, Phil, I think we are, every single day, we're given an opportunity to do something that will make an impact with other people. And when we started Team 17, I was really clear to say to people, don't join this group to get something out of it. Join this group to put something into it. And some people can't quite get their heads around that. They go, what do you mean? You should I not be? Yeah, there's loads of resources, there's loads of great stuff, but you have to put something in. And by doing that, you suddenly end up with 1 to the power of 100 of people all wanting to help and all wanting to do stuff. And I think that to go into life with that attitude and to just think, today, a lot of the people who are watching this will get the end of the day and they'll write their journal and they'll talk about, what was great about today. One of my questions is, who have I helped and what did it mean? And I ask that question at the end of every day. And if there isn't a name on there, not just a group of people, but a specific name, then the next day I'm going to make sure I do 2. And most days there is, which is great. And I hope that, Connie and Kellen and yourself and David, and all the people who are watching today, then I hope that I've helped to make a positive impact on your life today.
And something you shared with me before we came on, we were in the green room eating donuts and wine and not even feeling anything, just enjoying it. And we were talking about your father, and I said that the oak tree's acorn doesn't fall very far from it.
Yeah.
And the story you were sharing with me was that your father was a brilliant roofer, and he was passionate about it, he was enthusiastic about it as you are with what you're doing. And he consulted, and you were telling him he could charge because he was doing it for free. And he says, no, I just want to help. So that's what you're saying. And it's also like that metaphor about the people want to get heat from the fire, but not prepared to put the wood in and do the things to make it so it comes on fire.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Isn't that a good one? So, wow, this was wonderful. Maybe I can encourage you to do this another time, fit us into your schedule in a few more months or half a year or something, and carry on with our banter. I really enjoyed your time with me and the audience, and I'm glad that somebody was able to get your book. And there's some more comments here before we shut this down. There you go, right from Connie.
Brilliant. Connie, let's connect. It'd be great to get to know you. Please do. Yeah, good stuff.
Thanks again, my friend from overseas, from my homeland, England. Well, that's it. That's a wrap. I just want one more time, just remind you to think of this here. Where did it go? Right there. Remind yourself that you too are wonderful in your own way, and everybody's unique. So go out there and continue acting like yourself, being wonderful, and maybe take a nugget or two from what you heard Michael share with us today. Until we have another show, have a terrific, wonderful day.